Martin Hayden, and the Deputy has 10 minutes.
Thank you, Hirlock, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak on what is an important bill and something that was in both the Programme for Government and Fine Gael's General Election Manifesto back in 2011 regarding issues around clamping. And it has been a source of annoyance for many people who have gone toe-to-toe with a clamper, particularly the private enterprise ones who tend to have been acting without a really strict set of guidelines and without a strict structure around both signage and appeals mechanisms and all to go with that. I very much welcome this bill, and it's the first time the regulation of private clamping operators has been put on a statutory legal footing. The purpose of the bill is to ensure that all clamping activities are carried out in a fair and transparent manner to protect motorists and legitimate clamping companies. The bill introduces consistency to clamping for the first time, whether it's on public or private roads. I'm very happy that this bill sets up a new regulatory regime, a simple two-step appeals process, a default maximum clamping release for private property, and a code of practice for operators, and a new requirement that signs must be displayed for clamping. I have many instances of issues in my own constituency around Newbridge and Athy where there has been excessive charging and where difficulties have arose, Minister. The ability of the person with a complaint to raise those and have them adequately heard has been a running sore for some time. I particularly think to mind the constituent who approached me having got hit with a €120 fine, and their only way of getting out of it was to pay it to release it. They had a valid ticket. The valid ticket had fallen off the dashboard and onto the ground. The person who released the clamp, who was there to collect the money, said they had no way of adjudicating in such matters. You had to ring the company. You rang the company and they got nowhere, and after months of frustrations they ended up giving up. And that's not good enough. That, to me, if that is happening on a regular basis, then that's a company that was abusing the system, and that's where this legislation is about coming in, to make sure that any potentially rogue companies are held to account from now on. Under the bill, the function of such regulation will pass to the NTA, and following the passing of the bill, the main areas that will be regulated are the clamp release and vehicle relocation charges, the provision of appropriate advisory signage, and the establishment of the two-tier appeal system. So it's the separate complaints procedure that considers complaints from members of the public is really, it's very, very necessary, Minister, and it's crucial that where there has been a lack of flexibility in the past for genuine cases, as I've highlighted, and that the companies themselves know now that there is someone watching over them, that there is set rules to have to adhere to is very, very important. The maximum clamp release charge is also significantly important. Figures like €120 plus for a clamp, to my mind, is excessive, and it nearly in a way encouraged in some instances a culture of trying to make as much money out of it as it possibly could. Often one of the complaints I've heard from people is that they weren't aware in the area that they could be clamped in the operating times, and there was limited signage in certain amounts of these areas, or the signage might be there and slightly covered up or obfuscated in some way, that they could always say the sign was there but it wasn't that visible. And there was very genuine cases where people I know got clamped and never thought they needed to purchase a ticket for those areas. So persons responsible for enforcing parking restrictions in places where clamping is operated, referred to in the bill as parking controllers, will be obliged to provide signage which is prominently displayed, indicates that clamping activities are in operation, and provides details the relevant charges applying in relation to such activities. And that's absolutely crucial and very much to be sought for. In the broader term, Minister, we have issues around parking in general, and obviously while this bill in my mind addresses a lot of the issues with the clamping in private areas, we have pay parking, we have public pay parking in a lot of our towns in South Kildare, where we have cars parking on the main streets, and in many respects that was introduced to aid local business, to stop the person driving who either works in the town or was commuting to Dublin, as the case may be in Kildare, from parking their car on that street for the day and taking up a valuable space that a shopper might use. So it's a good idea in principle and should be providing revenue to the local authority. that can then be spent on local services. But I think, and I know it covers the area of planning, so more as much a matter for the Minister for the Environment as yourself, but the whole area of the planning laws at present that allows these out of town or on the edge of town large scale developments whereby people can go and park, for example parking, free parking on the edge of these towns, in some ways is seeing footfall from the town centres moving out. And some businesses will feel that paid parking on streets is actually a disincentive to business when it was designed to be quite the opposite, to allow a space for a shopper to come in for a couple of hours and to make sure that there was a turnover of cars and turnover of traffic into the town. But I do feel that, you know, we're seeing viable businesses in certain towns closing and moving to larger retail units on the edge of towns, as is the case in Naas. I know that definitely happened, and we don't want to see that proliferate around the rest of the country. That we want to keep any planning should be sequential from the centre out, and encourage and make sure that our town centres remain vibrant and you know, a hive of activity. Look, but in relation to this bill and the areas in relation to clamping, I'm very happy to support it. You know, it's designed to protect motorists and legitimate clamping operators, and this gives them legitimacy for those who have been going about their business in the right way. But it also will penalise bad behaviour by rogue operators. I accept clamping is necessary. It provides a structure for people to park responsibly, and without that I think we would have other difficulties. But the variety and inconsistency of release charges applied in privately owned car parks has been a cause of serious annoyance and has been unacceptable in my mind, and that's why I commend this bill to the House. Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Deputy. Deputy Anthony Lawler, and the Deputy's 10 minutes.